Welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for Promoting the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately named IPA-USA. IPA-USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association. And as part of our efforts to promote play, we're happy to introduce our Porch Play Chats. And these are conversations that focus on a wide range of topics from experts that are just as passionate about play as we are. You can find the latest Porch Play Chats and learn more about IPA USA by visiting our website at ipausa.org. And you can click in that top right-hand corner and have access to our Facebook, our Instagram, and our YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel is where all the Porch Play Chats that we've done are housed. But it's important to know that every Monday we release a new Porch Play Chat on both YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. So you can find us in many different ways. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm the president of IPA USA. And with me on the porch is Lisa Murphy. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, nice to see you.
Lisa is a board member and an expert on play, as I'm sure all of you know. And joining us today is Elizabeth Ging. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're
Welcome
so
back.
glad. I know we're so glad to have you back. So the reason why we asked Elizabeth to come back, and we hope we'll have her back many times, is that Elizabeth is the early childhood instructional facilitator for the Edmond Public Schools in Edmond, Oklahoma. And her primary role is serving the pre-K through the second grade teachers. And in her role, she leads more than 275 educators and administrators on best practices in early childhood in those classrooms. And they have 8,200 students. So imagine the impact that she is able to facilitate with those children. And so her title today is prioritizing play in a public school setting. And so, okay, Elizabeth, the question is, how do you get buy-in from all these stakeholders and with the district to incorporate play into those classrooms?
Right, yeah, because that's a very difficult thing for those who aren't versed in early childhood and play. Um, One of the ways we were able to get investment and buy-in with all of our stakeholders for this project was to treat it like any other initiative that
Mm,
we have in our school district. We're a large school district. We're the third largest district in the state of Oklahoma, serving approximately 35,000 students. And
mm,
so we oftentimes have large initiatives or change orders, new curriculum, new protocol procedures that are in place, and we do those in a very methodical, thoughtful way. Well, once it was determined that yes, we are going to push forward with the Purposeful Play project, that it's important, our reasonings, we treated it like any other initiative so that all of the stakeholders from the very top down to our support staff that is such an imperative piece in our school
mhm,
system knew that we were serious about it, that this was a goal, and implementation was expected in some ways, I would say, when we're coming through, you know, the district channels, but also in a way that's not that hard kind of strict way of fidelity to this. You must do this, you must do this, because that oftentimes we know we can back away from things like that.
mhm.
So with play being such a large broad topic, and knowing that not all of our educators or staff were versed in play and its importance, we have to take a softer approach that here are the reasons and this is what we're going to do to support you, but we're going to follow the same path that we follow with our other initiatives. So there's some safety there. I know how we roll in introducing new things. That feels a lot more safe, and to know that, okay, I have an idea of what this is going to be. I'm willing to learn the rest and see where we can go with it. So having the support from the very top, from our superintendent down, and taking the approach just like we do everything else has been really helpful.
It sounds also, this just jumped in my head. You kind of removed then that variable of, well, I don't like it. Like that it's a non-issue. Whether you like it or not, this is going to start rolling out. And I think oftentimes, especially play advocates, we can be a little over, I call it splaining. We end up splaining it, and we end up over explaining it to the degree where people are like, why you having to explain it so much? Like, is there something wrong here? Why are you needing to clarify it so hard?
Or defend it, or
Yeah.
defend it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wrote a note. I'm like, I like that. You just did it. We treated it like any other initiative.
Yes, because just like our kids, where we want to create that caring, safe environment for them to learn in, we have to do the same thing for the adults. The adults need that same support and that caring environment to say, we're going to coach you and support you through this new process. And then as we get buy-in from others and practice strengthens, and you start to see success from your colleagues or from other children, that's where motivation comes in. Oh, wait, look at that. It did it. It worked. Or, oh my gosh, I'm not having this issue with this child anymore since we've started doing this. That makes me think of also some other things that allowed that. I think the buy-in was much easier and faster to come because we framed it around social emotional intelligence and self-regulation. And every administrator, every teacher, every school employee wants that safe, connected environment, right? They want the opportunity for kids to be able to self-regulate and learn. That is what's going to lead to the academics. In order to be able to take in that learning and those academics, I have to be in that right brain state. I have to be ready to receive that information and know how to handle something if it's difficult, or if I don't agree with it, or I don't have any background here and I need to build towards it. So we included in the frame of it that, if our kids, if we want to develop that social emotional intelligence and that self-regulation for children, the way they practice this, the way that we coach them through it and model for them are through natural play opportunities. That is the environment that allows them to have that safety and that free conversation, but also to model that language. You were hoping you could get the pizza pan next, but Sally grabbed it. Maybe you could ask her if you can use it after her. Let's try that, and model some of those things instead of having a fit, or having that meltdown when something doesn't go my way. We're more prepared and set for how to get along and regulate ourselves in a play type environment, much more so than a sit and get and direct instruction, and not opportunities for active engagement with peers.
So, Elizabeth, I want us to get into the meat of it, because that was the perfect opening to, okay, so we got everybody on board, because we were really, if you, in this kindergarten teacher survey that they surveyed years ago, teacher said, oh my God, these kids don't know how to solve a problem. They don't know how to get along with each other. And so I think that was a wonderful sort of way to sort of get people to go, oh, well, maybe it is something I want to try, because I am having this issue, blah, 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 right? And so then if you have people who don't have a play-based background or education, exactly how did you get them to try things?
Great question. Well, one of the things that we discovered, well, let me back up. In pre-K and kindergarten, not so difficult. They're coming with an early childhood certificate. They must have an early childhood certificate in Oklahoma to teach pre-K and kinder. Starting at first grade, I can hold an elementary certificate along with an early childhood one. And so when it came to those pre-K and kindergarten, of course, there's a lot less resistance because the knowledge base is wider and more prevalent in those grades. What we found as we moved into the first grade play project, knowing that teachers either can have that elementary or early childhood certification, that was a trigger for us to go, let's see how many there are, because that will dictate how much professional development is needed. And then looking at not doing one size fits all professional development, that we have to tier our professional development based around what your experience and what your need is. And with the ultimate goal for teachers to take ownership in this, to see the purpose, to be intentional about it, for the best results for all, really. And so that is where we'd asked our technology department to run some reports, and honestly, they're running more this year with the pandemic and things have changed, turnover has changed, but collaborating with different departments. And so finding out how many of those first, second, even third grade teachers now we're looking at have an early childhood certification, an early childhood university experience versus an elementary experience. Because as soon as we started pushing into first grade and we held our first meeting, there was pushback from a lot of first grade teachers. So strong in some regards that it did surprise me. I was taken aback by some and had to do some reflection. And how do we move forward with this to see the value, to take ownership so that it becomes a regular part of our practice? And so running those reports to find out, okay, we have X number of early childhood certified teachers teaching these grades versus elementary. What now? Let's take that and break it down further. We need professional development just on play. Why do we play? What is the purpose of play? The very fundamental pieces of why it's important to all human beings, but specifically the children in our classroom and the age groups that they serve. But then we also need professional development around those that have had more education on it, but we're looking at honing and crafting our skill. Or maybe I graduated with that EC degree and I was all about it and gung-ho, and then I walked into public school. Public school does not necessarily portray the image of what we were taught as early childhood teacher candidates, right?
So was that actually predictable? Like my nerd brain now is wanting to actually know what those numbers were. Like in that first grade classroom, what was the percentage of people who did have that certificate? And then of the percentage that actually had the certificate in early childhood, how many of those teachers were still kind of aligned with the play philosophy versus those who came with an early childhood certification but had drifted?
Great question. Well, I would say our numbers right now are not valid because of the turnover and the things that have had to pause pandemic wise. I will say that in our initial look at it, when we started moving into first grade, we were looking at approximately 30% of first grade teachers having an EC university experience, EC certification. Because nowadays we also have to think about and look at alternative certification. And so we have a teacher shortage here in Oklahoma that's pretty significant. And so we are alternatively certifying teachers right and left. And so just because a teacher has an early childhood certification does not necessarily mean that they've had the education to go along with it. So I may have a university experience in elementary, but I went and took the Oklahoma subject area test, and now I'm certified in early childhood as well. And so there's layers and multiple variables in there as we begin to look at it.
So I just want to align what you've already said, because I think it's a lesson already. You took people where they were and you provided access to professional development that would fit their immediate needs so that you could get them and scaffold them to a different place, right?
Yes.
And so if we do that in the classroom with children, So we're modeling what we want them to do with children, right? We're meeting children where they are instead of expecting them to be at a different place. And we're meeting them individually where they are. And we're providing opportunities for them to understand the purpose behind the initiative and to become willing to try things in their classroom, right? That might promote better outcomes for children. And so it's a beautiful, first you hook them because you might not have so many issues with behavior, right? So that's the hook. And then you meet them where they are and you lead them to where you want them to eventually end up. I think it's beautiful. I mean, that in itself is like, oh my God, look at all those lessons about how to implement something that might be really scary. And the other thing I think is important, Elizabeth, is that you write an article about this and why it's important that K through third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade teachers have an early childhood cert versus an elementary cert, because it is a totally different degree.
Yes. Yes, and what we're finding and what's interesting, and we've had to put a lot on pause, with the pandemic, and we're planning now and how we're moving forward, and lots of summer PD play projects going on. But what's been interesting, especially I would say with first grade, because we were off and running in kindergarten. We had done our first PD across the board, and I want to get back to that because I want to talk about with the PD and how some of those stakeholders, but then the pandemic hit and we kind of had to pause. And so we gave guidance going forward for those EC classrooms in a year of a pandemic when we're still in school. How can we play safely? That we're not going to negate this, that this is something that they need more now than ever. But our first grade teachers, since we were in the process of developing our resource book, we had made it as far as aligning the standards, choosing our different learning areas we'd like to see in classrooms, what are those materials and sort of thing. And then we kind of had to pause. We haven't got our resource book for first grade completed yet, but what I've seen in those first grade classrooms as part of the committee members, they have ran with it.
Yay.
See the difference in it. And the teams that I have where they're mixed, I have, I'm a team of 6 and maybe 3-4 of us have an early childhood background degree, and the other half have elementary. The collaboration that takes place when those teachers take ownership and they buy into it, there's nothing that I could do or that the district could do to substitute or to make that happen or to replace that. When those teams come together around a common goal and they see results from it, we get the collaboration irregardless around what your experience, your background knowledge has been on that, my education, because I'm seeing the results and I'm becoming passionate. And that's what I've seen this year. Without the resource book to guide them, that's given them this, I am seeing play happen in those first grade classrooms, especially with those committee members who've had a little bit more, engagement in that. Them writing donors choose grants in first grade to get those play items in their room. Teachers with elementary certification coming over and saying, holy cow, I may be an elementary graduate, but I'm an early childhood teacher and I'm going to do it right. And
that is amazing. And I think what's so beautiful is there's Vygotsky again, right? It's peer-to-peer learning.
Social constructivism. It's social constructivism.
The other thing that's going to happen, and I love it when this happens, is that it's so grassrooty. The kindergarten kids are going to demand it, right? Maybe not so assertively, but you're going to get parents that have started buying into the model in the preschool, and then the kids are getting it. They're all going to then end up demanding it as they get on. So that just makes my heart happy, right?
Well, that reminded me too, when we talk about rolling it out like we do with any other initiative, we have parent advisory committees that our district meets with, our superintendent, some of those top leaders. We have that advisory team. And so treating it just like anything else, we went into those parent advisory committees telling them about this initiative and about this project. And they were over the moon about it. Our head PTO, our PTO moms from each site, to where they come together, you know, and talk about projects they can do to help district wide or whatnot. They were willing to, you know, collect money that they had to throw money at the project for what can we purchase? What are our classrooms lacking in that we need to buy some materials for them? And so I think it goes back to that communication piece and letting everyone kind of roll in a say in their safety realm, right? So communicating it across the board, not only with our teachers, but with our community as well. It was never this ambiguous or, oh, they're just playing. The communication and the informing the entire time along the way is imperative to get to the point of, this is just what we do.
Mhm.
And so the other thing I want us to go back to what you didn't want to forget to talk about. But the other thing that I think will be important when you're back face to face, hopefully
We're
soon,
back 4 days a week after spring break.
is if it's possible and you can get permission, I think having photographs of classrooms,
Before and after.
yeah, especially if you could do before and after, but photographs so that people can see it, because sometimes I think we can talk about it,
Sure.
but unless they actually see it, and even if you would feel comfortable sharing, which is where we're going next, is the professional development sort of sequence that and what
Well,
those
it's so
learning
duplicatable.
experiences.
It's
Yes,
such a duplicatable model.
yes.
That's so exciting to me.
Well, and
Yeah.
I'd love to be a resource for anyone out there looking to do something similar. And yes, most definitely. So talking about the professional development side of it. Last year we were able to, when we look at the tiered and, you know, meeting the needs of everybody, we the first professional development that we offered and were able to do was we brought in Christy Mraz, who's a Heinemann author of a book called Purposeful Play. It's very kind of foundational. It's an easy read. You know, we don't want to get into from the initial, like, here's this, okay, I'm reading it 3 times in this paragraph to understand what it's telling me. So we were intentional in how we chose some of those resources and rolling out. So we brought Christy Mraz, and we paid, as from the district office, we paid for 2 kindergarten teachers from every single elementary school to attend this full day professional development. And then we also requested that an administrator from every site be there for the entire day. We did get most of our head principals. There were a few APs, but having them there being learners side by side by with their teachers was critical, in part because when they go back into practice in the classroom, and those administrators who are on the fence of, I can't see the learning in this chaos, or, you know, something of that nature, that kindergarten teacher can then turn to the principal and say, hey, remember when we learned about blah, 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 blah? That's what that looks like. That's what they're doing. Let's listen to that conversation. What can we take from that? What do we know about their learning and their achievement and their goals based upon that? So ensuring that the administration was part of the professional development piece was really important. And then we also allowed principals to pay out of their funds for substitutes to cover anyone else that they wanted to attend for that professional development workshop. Some of them just went with what the district provided. We had others who stepped in and provided substitutes for the rest of their team. And so the entire team came with an administrator there, but a whole day's worth of learning and very much collaborative. What does this look like? How are we going to do this? What is this reference in your resource guide that can help you? So that was kind of the basic kind of one shot across the board, to where we are looking to do that with all first grade coming up in the fall. We had planned on doing it this spring, but, you know, just having to flex. But then what we have planned for next year, starting with the summer as well, of course, continuing to develop our resource guides for first grade, aligning standards in second grade. Now we're looking at even going into third grade. in part because we have House Bill 1569 that is alive and well in legislation right now. It's the Oklahoma Play to Learn Act.
Oh my.
Should this go all
Wow.
through, this Play to Learn Act would be law for pre-K through third grade in the state of Oklahoma. And so now as we're looking at in our lens and where we were planning on going for sure through second, now we're starting to entertain, okay, we need this for third grade as well, and beyond. But
Okay, so wait, because I love stop the presses for just a second.
The public policy advocacy lights just went on Deb's head.
So we need a copy of that current proposed legislation
To put on the website.
and then the final one. And do we know where it is in the process?
It is headed across the hall right now. So it has came out of the House, passed with flying colors. So now it's headed across the hall. If it passes through the Senate committees and whatnot, we'll look forward to it being law.
Oh my goodness.
What was the number?
House Bill 1569.
Thank you.
1569. Okay. So just send me what came from the House. And then, because we can say to other states, here is a template for you.
You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Right. So that needs to go under our advocacy. And then I want to do a play talk about that too, especially. So the people who are, who initiated that would be wonderful to have on a Porch Play Chat to talk about how they got buy-in. I was on the Governor's Commission of School Readiness, which I hate that term, but it was okay. The governor appointed me in Colorado, and so I worked with legislators to pass laws, and we got some great things passed because we got their buy-in. So I would love to hear how they've done this, because I think that would be a model for, look at Oklahoma. We love you, Oklahoma. This is amazing.
Well, the author of the bill, Jacob Rosenkratz, we had the opportunity, our state early childhood consortium is a very strong power. We're a great group of collaborative entities from public school to the private sector, serving birth through 8. And so he attended our consortium last year. We were able to talk through some things. I've given him some drafts of our play booklet, and he pushed forward this year, and it's got strong support behind it. So I will for sure get you that. I've got it on my ready to go.
Oh, that is amazing. Because again, I think it's important for people to go, other people have done it. You can too, right? So we need to give them that sort of push a little bit sometimes I think as early childhood professionals, we feel like that if we promote play, people don't take us seriously because they don't recognize the impact of play and how much learning actually happens, even though learning shouldn't be the purpose, right? Learning is a benefit, right, of children playing. But I think sometimes we shy away, just like you did not, right? It's an initiative. This is just like any other initiative, and it's just as important as any other initiative. And so sometimes I think we pull back a little because we might think people won't take us seriously, but look what has happened.
Yes, great things rolling forward with it. So I just want to tell you a little bit where we're going in that professional development as we're pushing that unpause button, as things are looking much more hopeful. So we're planning a 3-part PD series. And this is where, as a teacher, again, I can attend 1, I can attend 2, I can attend all 3, depending on what my needs are or where I'm looking to hone my skill set. So we're going to offer a sequence of them. The first one being setting the stage for play in my classroom, about developing those learning areas that we have provided the resources around, that we have aligned our Oklahoma academic standards around. So the first one will be about setting the stage. How do I set that stage in the classroom for the outcomes that I'm looking for? The second part of that, the PD, is in the moment. Because we want teachers, one of the things that we really are trying to promote is that during this purposeful playtime, when we're having this take place, that 45 minutes daily in the classroom, that this isn't the time for the teacher to check email. This isn't the time that I pull my students and do my interventions. This isn't the time that I'm prepping for the next day. That my job as the educator is to be actively engaged in the play, to be an active observer, to be the negotiator, to be the prompter, to play all of these roles, that I'm actively engaged in it. So that second PD is in the moment. What's happening in the moment? How are we honing our questioning, our probing? How do I know when to step in or to say, I don't step into that. I just stand back and I observe what's happening. So that in the moment. And then the third part goes with the second part. It's about observing and assessment. So since we have standards-based grade cards for pre-K through second grade in our district, how do I take what I have set the stage, what I've been in the moment? How do I know my goals, what I'm looking for, what I'm evaluating in standard mastery to report on at the end of this quarter? How can I be prepared to document? How do I know the right questions to ask so that I can really evaluate students in regards to mastery of those standards that are required and expected, but in an environment that is much more child-centered, child-friendly, through a means that they do naturally and should every day. So we're looking at doing this 3-part professional development series, bringing on our overall one for our first grade. And it's just kind of almost a continually rolling kind of model. And I see this as an ongoing piece because as we have turnover, as we have new teachers join our district, as we have teachers who move from being a 4th grade teacher to a 1st grade teacher, it's just going to be something that needs to be ongoing. And really, once that machine is well oiled and it's the practice is really just part of what we do and how we do it, I don't see that as being as necessary, because as those new people come in, as new teammates join, the team is going to be the one to help bring them up to speed, to say, this is how we do things in 1st grade. This is how we do things in 2nd grade, but still provide the opportunity for the education, but letting their team circle around them and take ownership in it as well. That's how we're going to sustain and maintain it.
Oh my goodness. Just amazing. And I love those titles, right? Because you have to do with what you have to do, right? We have to assess for mastery, blah, blah, blah. But what I'm seeing is the difference between assessing for mastery that leads to test anxiety, which is the college students that walk into my classroom at Delaware County Community College, versus children who have been assessed through typical important play-based learning. So it's a paradigm shift in the way that you look at assessment. And with an intentional teacher who is a keen observer, there is so much you can learn just by observing. You don't need to test them.
Well, and that's the thing, over the last several years, we see, unfortunately, a lot of one-on-one assessment and pull over the child, assess what standards are, being evaluated for mastery per that quarter time. When really and truly, that doesn't give us a true picture of that child's knowledge. It's so formal and so removed from what their typical kind of learning and environment is, that it really isn't a reflection of what they know and what their mastery skills and abilities are. So when we place them into a play area, learning area, and we've set the stage, we know what we're looking for. We know what standards that are looking to be mastered and reported on. And I have intentionally created, this pet shop in my dramatic play area because I'm looking and listening for this part of speaking and listening. Are they asking questions to their peers if they don't know? Are they trying, multiple things to solve that problem? If I set the stage correctly, and I know what I'm looking for, I can have a much clearer picture of what my students know than any sit down one-on-one paper pencil assessment any day.
Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So again, we could go on for 7 hours, right, and just talking about this model. But I do think that again, we've had some great lessons already on how you were able to hook folks into considering play and play-based learning as an option or as an initiative. And then I'm so excited about this pending legislation. That just is, I'm just like ready to go. We can do town halls on how to get legislation passed in your state. So as we close up today, is there any final things that you want to make sure that we've gotten that we didn't cover?
Not that I can think of offhand.
Okay, so I want you to be thinking about what the next Porch Play Chats might be, and we would love a principal and a teacher to join us as well, because I think having that shared experience,
Oh, it's
be,
crucial. It's
y-
crucial.
it's crucial, right? And especially from the principal's view of what's happening in a classroom, and then the teacher's intention of what's happening in the classroom. I think it's so important that people see that it does work and it is beneficial and it is an important piece in creating environments and schools that embrace this. I mean, they're just the power and the impact that you're having on children is to be commended, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
So for more information on other Porch Play Chats or to join IPA-USA, please visit our website at IPAUSA.org. And until next time, thanks for listening and keep on playing.
Bye-bye.